Lichens on bark. Right, the ones in the sycamore trees that we've seen in a fair amount of detail. Here's a redbud tree with a bunch of foliose lichens growing on it, including this ruffle lichen, which we have also seen in the field. Here's one that's called hammered shield lichen. It's Parmelia sulcata. It's gray, and it has a surface that's sort of indented irregularly here and there, forming some sort of little polygon patterns, sort of gently though. It's a very common lichen on bark and occasionally on rock. Here we see some rhizines that are unbranched at the coming from the dark lower cortex of this Parmelia sulcata. Here's on the upper right, there's one that's deeply patterned with little polygons. It's called Canoparmelia. It has a reticulate look. Here's a well-known, very common, easily overlooked foliose lichen with very, very narrow lobes that are broken into soredia, and it also produces abundant apothecia. It's called Powdery Rosette lichen, Physio Millegrina. A genus of lichens that's sort of like Physio, but brown, and therefore called Phaeophysia, which means brown Physio, is the shadow lichens. And here's a shadow lichen with a star rosette lichen, a lighter colored Physio. This is a lichen that's aggravatingly common and aggravatingly like a lot of other lichens. It's called Millegrina orella, and there's some subtle ways to recognize it. Slightly yellowish medulla, sometimes some little bristles in the axils. Here's one that's very, very frequently seen with abundant apothecia and little dark spots called pycnidia. They're little cavities within which some asexual reproductive structures called conidia form. Here's one that's easy to miss because it blends in so well with the bark. It's very brown. It's called brown shield. The Crestos lichens, they can be common on bark too. Here's one that's frequently seen. It's called Lecanora hypocarpa. It has a little bumpy rim. So let's take a look at rock, a very good substrate for lichens. Here's a little limestone fence, actually a big limestone fence in a little park on the west side of the Scioto River in Columbus. And if we take a close look, we see this Crestos lichen that's very, very yellow-orange, and it's called mealy fire dot lichen. Mixed in with it is another Crestos lichen, Lecanora dispersa. Here's an orange one called sidewalk fire dot. It's a Crestos lichen that has this distinctive orange color. Here's a big sandstone ledge at Conkle's Hollow State Nature Preserve, and there's a granular dust lichen called zoned dust lichen, a nice Crestos lichen. Cemeteries are great places to find lichens. They have rock substrate, which is usually uncommon in areas where the cemeteries are. Here's a cemetery in Marion, Ohio called the Thew Cemetery. And here's a grave marker that's got Parmelia sulcata, the hammered shield lichen. We saw it before on bark. Here it is on rock. And here's a grave marker that's got an unusual lichen. It's called Moonglow, Millegrina Orella. And here's a little Crestos lichen called Candelariella Orella that we see mostly beautiful, beautiful orange. We see exclusively very, very beautiful orange apothecia with some ice, with some more ice. Here's one that's got a pruinose surface. It's a fairly large foliose lichen with a whitish covering that's sort of sloughed off upper cortex cells. It's called frost lichen, Fisconia. Here's seen growing with some sunburst lichen, Xantho Mendoza. Here's a close-up showing the pruinose surface of frost lichen. And here's with some ice. Here's a brown lichen called Physio fei. And here's a close-up showing its pruinose surface and also the apothecia. Here's a lichen with paw-shaped lobes, and it's called Physio ascendens. Here it is again, with the paw-shaped lobes that has marginal cilia. It's fairly distinctive, common on cemetery grave markers, and also occasionally on the bark of trees. Here it is showing the paw-shaped lobes with the marginal cilia. Here it is looking through some ice. Here it again, looking through some ice. Here again, some cemetery lichens with ice. This is a very colorful genus of lichens called Xantho Mendoza. It's got an orange color, a little bit oranger than the lemon lichen, Candelariella. And here it is with some ice. And here it is with some ice. Ooh, that's mostly ice. Ooh. And here's a little ice front coming over the Xantho Mendoza. Here's a little Xantho Mendoza with some ice. This kind of looks like a dog. The ice does, with Xantho Mendoza. So, a friend of mine who's passed away now, one of the principal lichenologists in Ohio, wrote this poem about lichens. Hanging by a single thread, sharing tombstones with the dead, growing where no others tread, where others go, they thrive instead, the lichen. From valleys deep to mountain tops, on shaded sides of rock outcrops, trees and branches, bark that drops, on sun-baked soil, nothing stops, the lichen. Some are leaf-like, some are crusts, some are only flaky dusts, scattered around by windy gusts, to places new their life adjusts, the lichen. They come in many pastel hues, black and white, green and blue, dried by the sun, no shade to use, then watered by the morning dews, the lichen. Like king and queen, two partners royal, fungi protect, algae toil, together turning rock to soil, each to the other always loyal, the lichen. A marriage that defies the odds, put together by the gods, off the path where no one trods, a venture that success applauds, the lichen. So, if you're interested in lichens or mosses, there's a nice interest group in Ohio called the Ohio Moss and Lichen Association. We have a website, ohiomosslichen.org, and we go on 2 field trips every year. Join the club. Another member of the Ohio Moss and Lichen Association wrote a poem. Oh, the lichens are a fascinating show. It says down at the bottom, this poem can be sung to the tune of a popular campfire song. See if you can figure out which one. Oh, those lichens are a fascinating show. They'll captivate your interest, don't you know? You can find them in most places. Oh, they take on many. Oh, I get it. It's coming round the mountain, isn't it? Okay, I got it.